the cloud. All right, cool. All right, so we recording now, y'all. I have to remind myself before we start because I'll just get to talking and ain't nothing being recorded. So, all right. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, let me push this over because I'm about to screen share to some of y'all too. All right, there you go. All right, we ready, y'all. We ready.
Can you recall this?
I want to. You said what?
No, it's okay.
Okay. All right. All right. So I want to welcome everybody to the, what is this? The fourth event of the Ashe Project. To everybody that's came through to previous events and is here, because I see some people that were here at previous events. Welcome back. All the sessions that we've had so far have been pretty dope. To come together like this has been like one of its kind. This is the first time we've ever been able to connect from different places online. So it's opening the conversation up for us to be able to have these conversations and share these stories. So I'm definitely grateful for that, for sure. The film, first and foremost, before I even get it started, was, like I said, incredible. I'm gonna read a little bit about the excerpt, so the people that aren't here and the people that are gonna watch this in the future know a little bit what it's about. If you haven't, or you aren't able to watch it, but I definitely recommend that you watch. The website that you can go to is Audre Lorde /BerlinYears.com. And then I'm about to screen share with y'all so y'all can see a little bit of it. And then go from there. All right, can y'all see that? All right. All right. So, let me move this out the way too. My bad, y'all. And also happy Pisces post new moon as well to my Pisceans out there. And just celebrating the new moon energy as well. It was lovely, to say the least. All right, so the Audre Lorde Berlin Years 1984 to 1992 documents Audre Lorde's influence on the German political and cultural scene during a decade of profound social change, a decade that brought about the fall of the Berlin Wall, the reunification of East and West Germany. This chronicles an untold chapter of Lorde's life, her empowerment of Afro-German women as she challenged white women to acknowledge the significance of their white privilege and to deal with a difference in their constructive ways. Supported by Lorde's example of Afro-German women began to write their story and history and their stories and to form political networks on behalf of Black people in Germany. As a result, authors such as, now if I butcher these names, I'm sorry y'all, but I'm gonna try my best to pronounce them the best way I can. Beautiful people though, especially if you saw the documentary, really beautiful people, beautiful energy. May Ayam, Katharina Ogun Toye, I think, and Ika. Definitely look into those names for sure.
Hugo Marshall.
So what?
Ika Hugo Marshall.
Ika Hugo Marshall. Yes, definitely look into those people. Their names are definitely going to be coming up in this discussion today, so you definitely want to look into that. They were actually featured in the film as well, but I kind of we'll talk about it. Published in their works. Audre Lorde, The Berlin Years 1984 to 1992 outlines Lorde's contributions to the German discourse on racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, sorry, y'all, I can't pronounce that word, classism and homophobia within the Black community and Black and white women's movement. A discourse alive and growing today. Present day interviews explore the lasting influence of Lorde's idea and the impact of her work and personality. The relationship between Audre Lorde was mutually beneficial during these years. Audre Lorde's diagnosis of terminal cancer left her American doctors without hope for survival. Berlin became her third home, where she received neuropathic or naturopathic treatment and part of response for the next 8 years of her life. Matter of fact, shout out to that doctor also too in the documentary for supporting Audrey on that journey as well. That was a very interesting scene, and we'll talk about that too a little bit. The film represents an important addition of the documentary, A Litany for Survival, the life and work of Audre Lorde by Ada, I think Gray Griffin and Michelle Parkinson, was screened at the 45th Berlin Film Festival in 1995. So that's a little bit about the film. Once again, for those of y'all that weren't able to see the film, or people that will be, viewing this video in the future, because we will be posting this in the future. But yeah, that was a little bit about it. It definitely kind of shifted the way I know myself viewed activism and what that means if we're talking about Pan-Africanism, which is something that's been coming up a lot, just in conversations that I've been having with a couple different people. And yeah, let's really talk. I want to really expand and talk about that today. So before we get into it, I want to introduce my panelists. And I want y'all to be able to introduce yourselves as well so we can get to know you. So we'll start off with our names, where we're located at this time, and just a little bit about yourself, introducing ourselves to everybody that's here and stuff. Let me stop this real quick, screen share. And yeah, so I'll start off first, and then we'll, Brianna and Dagmar, if y'all want to jump in and introduce yourselves as well to everybody that's here. And we'll get right into it. So first and foremost, like I said, my name is Crew Make Do. I'm the founder of the Black Lesbian Archives. This particular exhibit that we've been doing since February 20th through March, and the last event is March 28th, 2021. So we got about a week to go. Was really opened and brought in to really talk about the rich Heart story of the Ashe Project. And through that story, I was actually connected with some incredible members of the Ashe Project, which actually connected me to Dagmar here today, which before then connected me to Brianna, but now we're here. So it's crazy. Basically, I was looking at I was listening to this interview. I forget the radio station at the moment, but it was in the Bay Area. It was right before Lynn passed away, or I think it was right after Lynn Keller passed away. And the radio host actually mentioned this film during this radio interview. And I was like, the Berlin Years, I've never heard of the Berlin Years. So I looked it up and I found Dagmar and reached out to Dagmar. So Dagmar, the film director of this film, is here with us today. So shout out to you, Dagmar, for coming through for that. I really, really do appreciate you being here. I know it's late where you're at right now, but I thank you for coming through for that, for sure. And then also to Brianna, once we talked about this particular interview, Brianna was like, I know Dagmar, like I know, like, and it just kind of connected and formed this whole thing. So we were meant to be here today is what I'm trying to say. Like we were all destined to be here. So once again, I'm glad to be ushering in and opening up this conversation with us all here who is here today to really talk about the impact that this movement really created all over the world. So thank y'all for being here for that, for sure. So Dagmar, Brianna, if y'all want to jump in, introduce yourselves, and we'll get it popping from there.
Well, Dagmar, I think you should go.
I'm sorry, I didn't get, what am I supposed to do?
So name, where you're at, where you're located right now, and just a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Dagmar Schulz. I'm located in Berlin, Germany. And but about myself, I lived in the United States for 10 years in the 60s and early 70s, and was involved in the civil rights movement. I taught at Rust College in Mississippi and worked in Puerto Rico after that in anti-poverty programs, and then got my PhD in Wisconsin and taught at Columbia College in Chicago, then came back to Berlin. And In Berlin, I got involved in the women's movement, which was very white at the time, and started with other women, the publishing house, and also the first feminist women's health center. And in the publishing house, we started publishing works by women of color, Black women. And Audre was one of the first. I published a book with writings by Audre Lorde and Adrienne Rich called Power and Sensuality, a collection. And that became quite important in the women's movement. That was the first encounter women had with Audre's work that came out in 1983. And at the same time, I met Audre in 1980. I met her in Copenhagen at the World Women's Conference. And she was, she gave a reading there and had a discussion afterwards. And it was left a very strong impression on me. So I talked with her then and asked her whether she would be interested in coming to Berlin. That's in the film too, if you saw the film.
I remember when she said when you said she asked me if I was a lesbian CIA agent or something like that. I was dying laughing. I was like, nah, she thought she was an op. I was reading.
That was, I guess, because I asked her whether she would be interested in coming as a guest professor to the John F. Kennedy Institute.
She was like, wait a minute, hold up. What you trying to do over here? That was cute. I thought that was so cute. I was like, no, she didn't ask you if you was an agent, but I understand you. I feel you. Like, I feel you, Audrey. I got you. But yeah, that's cute. I'm muting now. I'm muting. I just had to mention that because I thought that was cute.
So she actually, then it took 4 years to realize that plan. And she came in 1984 to Berlin. And then she came as a guest professor at the Kennedy Institute, was teaching 3 courses on African-American literature, women's literature, and a writing course. That was very unusual because in Germany, you don't have creative writing at the universities. Very unusual. Even though the country is called the country of thinkers and poets, but
why don't they have a creative writing out there? A program?
It's not considered academic work.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there are some individual, professors who do something like that, but it's considered something like that. It's not considered part of the canon or of the curriculum.
That's interesting. Especially since poetry is a part of that. Which we'll talk about poetry later on.
So, when she came, I decided I recorded all her courses, tape recorded that summer. And also interviews she did, and she did readings from her book and recorded her readings and discussions. And all of that eventually now went into an archive, the Audre Lorde Archive at the Free University of Berlin. And I think you talked about that with Breonna. Mayra Rodriguez Castro came to Berlin. She was one of the people who started working with that archive, but she did something really wonderful. She listened to all the recordings and transcribed them. So you get in the book, and Breonna is just holding it up there. You get in the book all these teachings, which is very unusual. You don't often have a chance to have recordings of the teachings of a person. Plus, she transcribed a lot of other things, interviews and it's a lot of other materials from the archive. So that's a wonderful book, which I really strongly recommend for everyone. And
can you say the name of the book? I know Brianna had held it up.
Audre Lorde, Dream of Europe. And it's called Dream of Europe because in I think in '89 it was, there was a, there you
Thank
see it.
you.
No?
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Brianna.
Paola.
Thank you. I need
89,
to order that actually.
there was a conference in Berlin, a big conference of authors from all over Europe. And the title of the conference was A Dream of Europe. And Audrey was invited at the conference, and she gave a talk there, and talked about what that dream meant to her, that it had been a nightmare in her life, or she considered it a nightmare for many people. And that's when she also said that she thought the only chance for Europe was to listen to the voices of this, what she called hyphenated people, like Black Germans, Turkish Germans, etc.
Yeah, that was cute too in the film.
And yeah, and that text is also in that book, of course. So let's see. Maybe that's enough for now. From my.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely dive into more.
What I want to add is that the first year she was there, that was the only time she was there as a guest professor, and that was the time when she met Black Germans and who came to her classes, like Katharina Orgontoye and Maya Yim and others. And she had come to Berlin and had asked me right away, where are the Black Germans? And that was then the encounter, which also led to the book showing our colors.
Yeah.
Afro-German women speak out, because she encouraged women. She
Hold
said,
hold on, Dagmar. I want to wait on that because we're gonna ask that later.
Okay.
Also too, is it called Afdera? Is it Afdera or is it Adefra? Does it mean something, or how do you pronounce that? The publication, the newsletter magazine publication that published Afrikiti?
Oh, Adefra. Yeah,
Adefra.
means, it stands for, A stands for African, and DE is Deutsch, German, and FRA is women, Frauen.
Gotcha.
So it's short for Afro-German women, Adefra.
Okay, Adefra. Okay, yeah, we're gonna come back to that. I don't want to drop it on the head yet. I want to bring in Brianna, because we're talking about this connection, all right, where the papers, right?
Yeah.
So now we're crafting this story. So how did Brianna come into the mix? Like, when was your first meet with Dagmar, and also the papers as well?
Yeah, can you make me?
Oh yeah. I got you. Hold on one second. I'm still learning too, y'all, out here with this with this Zoom stuff. Hold on one second. And also too, y'all, this is gonna be about, it might go a little bit on, but I'm thinking about 45 minutes. But at the end, if you have any questions, we'll definitely open up with questions. So keep that in mind as we go into. Hold on one second, Brianna. All right, wait, hold on.
Or wait, don't do it, because I don't know if it'll stop your recording.
No, it should be all right. If it does, I'll edit it in, but it should be good.
All right, cool. So hi everyone.
Hold on 1 second. I gotta change you. I'm sorry, this computer a little slow. My bad.
Take your time.
Hold on 1 second. Come on. Okay, you got it? It's still recording too.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this Sunday. My name is Brianna. I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of English at Michigan State University. And so since I began my graduate study in 2015, I have been visiting various archives. So a lot of my work not only engages Black lesbian thought, but also queer theory and Black feminism. So the first time I was introduced to Audre Lorde's archival work was in 2015. And I saw her papers, and I saw the correspondence between Audrey and Dagmar. But it wasn't until I actually was able to go to Germany that I realized the sort of dearth of Audre Lorde's archive, which extended beyond like a North American context. And so Spelman has the largest archive of Lord's papers, but I think what became more legible to me when I went to Germany is that actually hearing Audre Lorde as professor is a much different engagement with her work as poet, or even as, I would say, even as a person who gave research talks at the MLA or even at the National Women's Studies Association. So thank you, Dagmar, for archiving her work in a particular way. We don't have a lot of audio recordings of Audre, but also I think that seeing Audre as a professor or as a pedagogue has been really central to me understanding more of her work, I guess, in sort of a deeper way. And so I wanted Crew to make me co-host so that you all could kind of get an understanding of what the Free University of Berlin sort of looks like. This is one of the buildings that I passed by. I think this might be the building where her papers are, but structurally, can you all see the picture?
Mm-hmm.
The L building? Okay, so here I am in Germany. I've yet to meet Dagmar I've yet to meet Dagmar. And so this is my first day on campus. I don't know where I am. And what people won't tell you is that, and Dagmar, you can let me know if this is true, but when I was in Germany, I was told that Germans, even though they may speak English, they will speak German to you, like right away. And so even trying to figure out where I was going, very difficult. But this was one of the buildings that I passed while visiting Audre Lorde's papers. And here is a picture of me and Dagmar and Ika. I don't know, can you see the share? Yeah, so this was us. Yeah, we were outside on the porch, and Audre finished, I don't know if you all can see this second.
Oh, wow.
So Audre completed part of the marvelous arithmetics of distance on Dagmar's porch. I was trying to find the poem that has the gargoyles that are across. Maybe you can let me know what the name.
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
Restoration, I think it is.
Okay. And so here's Audre. As you all probably noticed in the film, Dagmar and Audre shared a love for flowers.
Yep.
So it was really great to just sort of be in the particular space. And so, yeah, my archival research, oh, this is one more picture. My archival research is really what led me to Germany. But I really was thankful for the conversations that I've had with Dagmar. This is a picture of Maya Ayim's grave. And so just to sort of get a picture of sort of what spatially the space might look like. But yeah, I was very thankful to have met Dagmar. You were extremely kind. And I think I learned a lot about what it means to sort of be in allyship with a person. What it actually means to not just support a person's work, but to create the conditions for the work to live and for the work, I would say, to have sort of a longer or sustained life. And so, yeah, that is the brief introduction, I guess, of my time.
Yeah, I love it.
How we sort of overlapped.
I love it. Like this crossing, you know, we talk about intergenerational. What I loved about the film too is, you know, there was no cross when it came to intergenerational ties. Like you could see somebody that was like 20, 19 years old in the same room with somebody that was 66 years old, you know? And I love seeing like us be comfortable being in spaces like that with each other, especially with women. I think, is her name, is it Catherine? Is her name is Catherine? She was one of the co-founders of ISD. Katharina, that's her name?
Yeah.
Katharina? Yeah, like, that was beautiful to see that dynamic between her and the elder, I forget her name at the time, but her story growing up as Afro-German as well. What was her name?
Abina.
Abina, definitely Abina. And also too, one thing that really pointed out to me, or really was interesting to me too, was when Gloria, Audre Lorde's partner, Gloria, I think it's I Joseph, mentioned that when she first came to Germany, and like everybody was looking at her like, I've never seen a Black person before. And she would stand in front of their face and be like, what up? Like, I'm here, like, what's good? Like, you know what I mean? So I think this dynamic of coming out to Berlin and bringing and showing people that like your roots are still here. Your roots are never been cut off. When you hear that growing up, you know, that you don't have any connection, you know, and when we go back to, you know, even the term and the meaning of Ashe, right? While we're here, the powers, our roots, these connections that are bridging from, you know, the US all the way overseas. I think seeing that dynamic play out during this time that Audre was able to connect these different worlds and these communities to show people like you do have a family, you know what I mean? You do have a lineage, you do have heritage, you do have culture, you know, and be proud of that. I think that was really dope to see. So once again, thank you for that film, Dagmar. And I'm excited, Brianna, that you was able to get to see that and be in that space, you know, like sitting in that, what was that house called again? It starts with a B, the house. That house.
I don't know what you mean.
The house that she talked about it in the film, like where women would come in and go out, and there was a whole bunch of women that lived there. She talked about it in comparison to the women's center that they built, started with the S, but like women were basically taking out foreclosed houses and flipping them, and women could actually come and stay. And they were like their own construction workers.
That's a Schoko factory.
That's what it's called.
It used to be a chocolate factory. That's why it's
called. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then they just came in there and just started building, and you know what I mean? I damn near cried. You know what I mean? When I saw that, I was like, that is just so dope. Like, just the energy of that, it was amazing. So let's get it popping, y'all. Let's keep it moving. I do want to talk about poetry as well, because we're talking about words. One thing that Audre said in the film was about basically how poetry is supposed to invoke or bring out or invoke emotions or evoke feelings for people to be able to empathize with things that are going on around them. As far as the community in general, and talking about the publication, from the publication to this idea and thought of people writing, and we've been talking about this too, you know, in the BLA and outside of the BLA, of just like us being able to share our stories with each other, to be able to connect with each other besides our differences, our backgrounds and things like that. What was that energy like to see these worlds start to, I'm going to bring this question to Dagmar, and then I could talk about this with Brianna too. But what was that like to see this merger of two worlds that hadn't been connect in a time like this? Like, what did that feel like for you? Like, just being able to bear witness it happening right before your eyes, when that's not something that was like regularly seen at that time. Like, what was that?
You mean now Audre coming to Berlin and
just establishing that connection between worlds, even though now the situations were pretty intense, because here we're talking about you know, Afro-Germans and the community in itself, but also white women being able to come into one space and honor the differences, but at the same time using those differences to come together and do something bigger for the community and beyond those communities as well. So what I say that to say, like, what was that like to see that all kind of come together, you know, being in that space, being in that experience, when that wasn't something, once again, that wasn't readily happening at that time, you know?
It was quite intense. I don't want to speak for Black women now. It was different for Black women and for white women, but I mean, for both, it was very special to meet with Audrey and Gloria as African American women of a different generation. And like you saw in the film, you saw Albena with her grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And that was unusual for many Black and white women because there were no generations in that sense. It's not like in the United States that you have a history with generations. You do, but it's a much smaller number.
Mm-hmm.
Like Albena's family, was one of the families that grew out of colonial time, where the grandfather came to Germany at the end of the 19th century and created a family and stayed. And so there were small communities at that time, but actually the next generations had even less of family ties in that way. Like Ika, who you just saw a picture of, I mean, her father was African American and came with the army and was sent back to the US. And there was no connection to the US, neither to Africa. So it was only then Katarina Oguntoye, her father was from Nigeria. And that was after the liberation of African countries that students came to Germany and had relationships, and created families with German women. And so those children sometimes lived for several years in the country of their father, usually the fathers did go back. So you have very different kinds of experiences. And meeting Audrey with her and Gloria with their experience of the African American context was a very special encounter. And for white women like myself, I mean, we never even learned in school, and my generation didn't learn hardly anything about Germany's colonial past. It's only now, actually, in the last 10 years that has become, with the decolonizing movement, that has become a different kind of issue, And at my time, history lessons stopped in, didn't talk about colonies and stopped in 1930, didn't talk about National Socialism either. That changed, but right. That has to do with, that's a generational change. But so, I mean, I had the big advantage of having been in the States and having been involved in the civil rights movement, and I had very different experiences than which white German women didn't have, or most of them didn't have. So, for white women, it was then the confrontation with Afro-German women. When we published the book showing our colors, that was the first time that there was even a realization that there had been generations of people of African descent in Germany, and that there were some families like Albena with a grandmother from who was Black, and so for white women, it was a real consciousness raising issue, and some women confronted it, some didn't, so we had situations sometimes when there were readings from the book, where Katarina and Mai and other authors in the book gave a reading, and then some white woman broke into tears, I feel so guilty, and then all the other white women congregated around her. Yes, incredible.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I had to go through this.
Yeah.
Dang. I mean, but that's at the same time as powerful, yo. Like being able to, like, having to go through those hard conversations to heal that. That's generational trauma cycle.
Yeah.
Goodness. That's incredible.
But a lot of women just learned a lot, and really it did have an effect on change in the German white women's movement politics, to some extent at least, not enough, but to some extent. So, and Audrey was always, and Gloria too, they were always challenging white women to recognize differences and to deal with difference, and asking, where are you looking for allies? Where are your allies?
Hold on one second. I'm listening.
But in that context, I was thinking again of in Sister Outsider, Audrey criticizes ageism, and she talks about, I have a quote here, by ignoring the past, we're encouraged to repeat its mistakes. The generation gap is an important social tool for any repressive society. And, that's because you were in the beginning also talking about, seeing women of different ages in the film. And that was an important, I think, part of the experience between Audrey and Black and white women.
Definitely. And you could see that through the film as well. I felt like I know I wasn't there per se, but I felt like I was sitting in the room while I was watching those documentaries. I'm like, I can only imagine like the heat that was coming off of these rooms during these conversations.
Yeah.
But what I really appreciate about it was the fact that y'all actually had the courage to confront those things. Knowing that one thing that she kept saying that I really did appreciate too is like, we are going to come from different places and different sides, and knowing those differences is what's the most important, and trying to figure out how we can, once again, like amongst those differences, still try to find a way to come together. She also mentioned the reach, allowing and using your reach to grow into other communities, you know what I mean? And pushing that stuff out there as well, like using the things that you have access to be able to touch other people and bring in other people, you know what I mean? And that was definitely something that really, really, you could see that, within that film as well.
Yeah, that's one thing I regret about the film, that we weren't able to include women with an immigrant history or history in these interviews, which we did. One close friend of Audrey's, a Turkish woman, was sick that day when we had when we did the screening for the interviews, and so I'm sorry about that, but
no, it's okay.
She did have contact with women, with quite a few immigrant women, and she always talked, like you just said, talked about the importance to network, between all of the communities, not just Black and white.
Right. She definitely did. I feel like though you could really see that. Like, I think the documentary went beyond its vision and reach. You did, the whole team, y'all did an incredible job on that film. I do want to take it to Brianna though, before we do kind of open things up for questions, and just ask, like, what was it like for you to first see that film for you? Even getting to go and visit the place where they were holding the papers. Could you describe like what that was like for you, just coming into that, doing the work that you do, because I'm just sitting like, man, I would love to go and see something like that just in person. Like, I feel like the film in itself and just learning about the history only did so much, but just to be able to go to it. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think that by the time that I saw Audre Lorde's film that Dagmar directed, I had seen A Litany for Survival, and I had seen At the Edge of Each Other's Battles. And I think my dream is that all three of these films can be converged one day and actually shown as sort of one film, because I think one of the missing aspects of Audre Lorde's work,
What was the two that you seen?
A Litany for Survival.
A Litany.
That's the film that you mentioned between Michelle Parkinson and Ada Gay Griffin.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, and at the edge of each other's battles, which was actually a conference, and so I think that that particular film really brought to bear Audre's investment in thinking of the intersections of race and class, and so the conference itself had a sliding scale. They also had a quota. So once they met their quota of white women in attendance to the conference, then they stopped taking registration from folks like that. And then it forced the people who desired to go to donate money so that more women of color could be in the space.
Wow.
And so I think of, her time in Berlin as being sort of another constellation to the entire body of her work. But I think Audre Lorde's reach as sort of an international thinker, as a transnational feminist, I think is really underscored in Dagmar's film. And I think that Black feminism at its best is a transnational politic. And I think when you visit her papers in Berlin, a lot of what you'll see are letters about her death, but coming from people from various backgrounds. Like, she had extreme ties with Native folks, with folks who were, identified as South Asian or even Asian, and you get to see really how her death impacted the entire world. And so I think even in living in the United States, the way that we're sort of taught in school is that the United States is the center of the world. And I think that the film challenges that, but also I would say demonstrates perhaps relations that we need to be a part of, or even ethics. I think Dagmar's invitation to me is an example of how not to just, honor someone in the moment, but how can we create a sustained relationship? And so when I think of allyship, when I think of, white feminism, I'm like, we have the models in place, right? That whole notion of struggle being intergenerational, or even our politics about liberation being intergenerational, really moves me to always kind of look back. And I think my investment in even desiring to meet Dagmar while I was there is because this professorship was integral to Audre Lorde's life, literally, right? Her meeting that doctor, put several years upon her life. But even I'm sure teaching, right? And the visceral experience that we get from being able to share our work, I think helped sustain her life. And so being there was interesting because, it's a small little area. It's not a huge space. And it's one sort of older desktop computer and these huge headphones on. But to be able to hear Audre and to move with her as I'm hearing her, I think has been one of the most joyous experiences. And so I was happy to be there. And I think our walk through the graveyard, I was very happy that you took me to the graveyard, Dagmar. I know I told you this, but thank you, because that moment continues to reverberate through me as well. And to see, Audre is from a lineage. I know we love her, but there were people before her, there were contemporaries, and then there are people after her. And so being able to see Maya Ayim's grave, someone who was deeply impacted by Audre Lorde's brilliance, was really, was a visceral experience for me. And even reading this book, I Dream of Europe, right? Or Dream of Europe. I think that even in our youth, the connection to Dagmar, Audre lives through you too. And so, I think that kind of, I guess I could wrap it up there, but that was how my time was.
That's amazing. I didn't even know you hit the graveyard, yo. I know that was like bone, you know what I mean? Bone chilling. That's incredible. I'm happy myself to be connected. I feel like we've all been kind of brought in once again into this meeting again. I don't know why I want to say that, but just we're meeting again. One thing that she mentioned in the film was like some around the lines of, don't get me quoting it all the way, but I just remember she was talking about how she knows that she's going to leave this life knowing that her work is not done. And she was okay with that because she knows that that was going to spark, you know, the next generation and that next generation to kind of continue what has already been started. And so when I think about just generational cycles and like the era and just even studying the history of everything that's happened up until this point, you can see how everything's kind of been passed over. I tell people all the time, like, you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. You know, the wheel doesn't necessarily have to be invented because we already have a foundation that has been, you know, laid in our past. That doesn't mean that we can't tweak the foundation that has been laid already for us, but it's definitely been laid. And I think her words, the community's words, are poetry. And I'm talking about the poetry in all forms: writing, speaking, rapping, you know, audio, video, whatever it is. That's another thing I want to say too, before we kind of open it up for questions, is, you know, record yourself. Like, your stories matter to not only just the people in the communities that you serve, or your family or your immediate family, but it's a global thing. You know, that's how we reconnect ourselves back to each other, is by knowing about each other, hearing each other, seeing each other. And I also too, showing our colors, and the Afrikiti publication that was posted as well, I think did a really great job as well as to bringing people's voices to the forefront collectively as well. And I definitely cannot wait to see. I feel like because we are in this age of Aquarius, this Jupiterian energy, this Saturnian energy that's really bringing things out. This is the time of the mind. This is the time of critical thinking, critical mass. And it's going to be interesting to see what not only was kind of kicked off in that time, but also what is starting to be birthed in this time as well. We are all here for a reason. You know, we've been selected to be here at this particular time. And, you know, cherish that, you know, cherish that. Y'all definitely take this time to connect with each other, you know, connect with yourself. And I don't know, I'm just, this particular time feels surreal to me, you know. I can't really explain it. It kind of felt like the panel discussions, the other panel discussions we've been having, but we're definitely tapped into something. We're unlocking something. We're birthing something new. This is the portal. So use it wisely, all right? So we're gonna open it up to anybody have any questions. I'm trying to scroll down to the messages, but I can't see it. So if anybody has any questions that y'all want to ask, just feel free to unmute yourselves. Once again, I want to let everybody know that you are being recorded if you walked in the past. So if you don't want your face to be shown, I'll let you know that. I'm gonna pull up. Brianna, can you send the oh, okay, I got it. I got the host thing now. I'm gonna send a study guide that I'm gonna send to y'all after this is done. I couldn't pull up the map, but the map is also available. The Audrey's Berlin Journey is also available on that website as well. If you want to kind of track that, it's really dope. There's pictures, photos, a little history of like all the places that she went. I thought that was also a dope idea too. I'm like, I want to talk to you about that, because I think that would be dope for the BLA and just all other archives that are trying to do mapping or map out, you know, certain areas and things like that. Maybe creating some type of map that you know, can kind of mark different historical landmarks and places and organizations and stuff like that. I think that would be dope. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, go ahead. I'm gonna show y'all this. I'm about to screen share it, and so I could show y'all the study guide that I'll be sending y'all after this is wrapping up. So go ahead, y'all, if y'all got any questions you would like to ask either of our panelists. Anybody? Go ahead. Let me see.
Hey, this is Lisa Lotus over here in Seattle.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, girl. I put my question in the chat, so I'm not sure if
I
Dagmar.
can't see it. Like for some reason, I can't scroll all the way down. So if y'all want to unmute yourselves and ask, or once I get there, I'll definitely start to ask. But if go ahead,
Okay,
go ahead and
you're
ask.
busy. You've got things going on there. Dagmar, did you see? I don't know if you saw my question, but I was just curious about when Audrey was urging the Black women to stay in the room and the white women to leave, or any and I was just thinking, oh my gosh, if somebody asked that now, the white women's white fragility would be showing so badly. And I was just curious, did you encounter that there in Berlin at that time? What was that like?
Well, that was actually in another town in Stuttgart, but no, everyone got up and left, and that was. I mean, I'm sure that some felt awkward, that it was something they had never experienced before, but I think they were too intimidated by Audrey to utter that, right? I mean, she was a strong person, and when she said, well, I'm asking now the white women to please leave, then you just got up and left, but I didn't hear afterwards any big complaints over it. But I mean, it is an issue, like, for instance, in women's projects where you have Turkish or Arab women working together with or women who have a different language as a mother tongue, together with German women. The German women don't like it when the other women talk in their language, but they don't think about what it's like for Arab women to have to listen to German all the time and maybe not being fluent in German. So those issues, I mean, we live in a society that's dominated by white people, and so it's a continuous struggle and continuous work that has to be done on consciousness raising and people acting and learning to act in a different way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Anybody else had any questions? Don't be shy.
I have a question. My name is Kate. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. And I was wondering, I felt during the film like such a gratitude that, like, oh, every moment that you captured, in film, I was like, oh, I'm so glad they were recording. Like, oh, I'm so glad you were recording that. I'm so glad you got that on camera. Like, because we don't have that, for so many wonderful people. And I was wondering, as you were recording, was that always the idea between you and Audrey that you would create a film? Was that always the idea, or were you just recording out of some other love to capture what was happening?
No, it wasn't the idea to make a film, but Audrey was always aware of my recording. And she called herself a photo bug herself, so she didn't mind, And actually, some of the images you see, she was recording actually. And, but I mean, one important thing was that I recorded the audio, because that way Audrey is speaking in the film and there's not a narrator, which would have been pretty boring. And so I often got complaints from my colleagues in the publishing house, oh, constantly with this tape recorder, and we hear this, they were old with tape record, a different kind, and we hear this constantly. And then later, they said, oh, we're so glad you did this, So the recording was an important thing, yeah. But not, I think, Audrey knew I was going to do something with it. She knew the material wasn't going to disappear in my, closet or what,
That's nice, thank you.
I see the sister outside on the table. I see you. Anybody else got any questions? We'll open up for 2 more questions and then we'll kind of wrap it up a little bit.
I have a question to you all. How did you feel about the more intimate parts in the film?
Oh, you talking to me or to Kate?
I'm sorry?
You talking to me or to Kate?
She's asking the whole group.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Intimate in what way? Like with Audrey and
Well,
her and
like the-
Gloria?
Yeah, for instance, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, personally, I felt very honored to be able to witness that. I thought that seeing Audrey Lorde's sense of humor, you know, like in the moment when she's being made fun of or being kind of called out, I thought that was great because it's like, how else would we know that? You know, that's not going to come across in a poem. You know, and to be there literally in that moment where the jokes are being told and the cards are being read, so to speak. I thought it was great. I really liked it.
Yeah, because for me it was what I felt was important to show all the on stage and off stage, and not to just as an icon, and some people find that criticize that, but most people felt that it actually made her more human. Like, we traveled a lot with the film. We had several tours through the United States and to other places, and especially in the States, people like at universities, professors said, "Oh, my students are kind of always in awe of Audrey. They find her so serious." And this film creates a bridge for the students to have a different kind of relationship with Audrey also. And Audrey's daughter said, she never saw her mother laugh as much as when she was in Berlin, and several people said that. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of, for Audrey, being in Berlin was it was a kind of a replacement for New York in a way, because it was a metropolitan city, but it didn't have the kind of stress factors which she experienced in New York. And on the other hand, once she lived in St. Croix in the Caribbean, she missed to some extent the urban atmosphere. So Berlin gave her both. And so, she, even though she had to struggle with the cancer issue, she did enjoy a lot of, in her time in Berlin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that those parts were definitely like very comforting to me to watch, because it showed that in her final years of life, like, she was genuinely enjoying life and was loved by people around her, and like was able to share her love with others. So I think I was very happy to see that, and just knew that her last years were ones that were good for her.
Yeah, and that's really something. I mean, one thing just in terms of Audrey's daughter, Elizabeth, on the film's website, you can see a video where we received an award from African Voices in the Real Sisters Film Festival, and she took the award for us, and she talked about how she perceived Audrey's time in Berlin. But in the States, people really were not aware of the fact that Audrey spent the last 8 years, weeks or months at a time, outside of the country, and had such an influence where she herself said, for the first time in her life, she felt she had really some very concrete effect, in terms of initiating or helping to initiate the Black German movement. And that's really, that's why I appreciate what you were saying, Kru, in terms of the global issue, of having global ties, which I think has developed much more in the last years, also through Black Lives Matter, which has become international, not just US based. But that's really something, I mean, I think I have to check, but on the Wikipedia page of Audrey, the English one, I think Germany still doesn't play a role there. And it's still, you know, there's kind of, maybe it's also a New York type thing to just, you know, focus on her time in the States, in New York. The Caribbean doesn't really come to bear either, you know, her last years in the Caribbean. So that's interesting, you know, it's something to, so in that sense, you're right that the film creates, you know, a venue to a broader community.
Definitely, it does. I mean, and I think, you know, there's a reason as to why Wikipedia doesn't mention the impact where a lot of these movements as well during that time, they don't really mention, especially women's movements in this time, they don't really mention all of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think of this film and just the energy of the Ashe as that whole thing, this whole connection, right? Where we're talking about building bridges between the US and building bridges between our roots, you know, which is overseas. And I feel like this film is an instrument to the bigger picture, you know? So I would love to start having more conversations, not just this one. I feel like this is kind of jumping it off, but having more conversations around Pan-Africanism, how to build more strong global networks where we're able to connect and share resources between the US and also overseas as well, for sure. But does anybody else have any, we got probably like one more question and then we're just gonna kind of wrap it up. But if anybody has one more question they want to ask, I'm still wasn't able to get down to the chat, so I cannot see anybody's chats at all. Oh, okay, I can now. It just okay. This is from Jamie Swift. Jamie Swift from Black Women Radicals. A question for Brianna. You just edited this dope anthology. What are your hopes for the future of Black lesbian thought, and how do you see Miles of Rain as an extension to Audre Lorde's legacy? That's
Yes.
loaded. Okay, not Brianna. Okay, Jamie, you better come through with the questions.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. So I think I have a lot of hopes for Black lesbian thought. I think primarily one of my goals with the anthology was to give credence to the long history or the genealogy of Black lesbian thought, which is why I began with the 19th century. And so I would say I have a goal for like the Black community. I think my first goal is for Black folks to recognize our shared histories, and for lesbianism to not sort of be treated as like a pathological, I would say, not disease of sorts, but the way that homophobia pervades the Black community and I think stifles connection is something that we've all had to grapple with in some way, shape, or form. And so I think that the book in and of itself is really a community artifact for Black lesbians to recognize this rich history that we have, and to understand that this is an actual literary movement. Folks were not just like randomly publishing, they were publishing with a particular focus. And like I said before, it's not just Audrey who we have, it's not just Barbara Smith. You know, there's Doris Davenport, who was a part of that genealogy, and so many other people. And I think that a part of Audre Lorde's legacy is really thinking of Black feminism as something transnational. So once you all get the anthology, or if you already have it, you know, the story, the Jambula Tree, is actually told from the perspective of a Ugandan writer who does not identify as lesbian, but the Jambula Tree gives credence to queer experiences in the African diaspora. And so that particular short story is now a movie, Rafiki. Moreover, someone like Dionne Brand, who is continuously giving talks about, you know, colonization or the coloniality of power, Dionne Brand is connecting us to the Caribbean. And so I see the African diaspora, I see the Caribbean as a part of this history that we're all trying to revere and make more space for as a collective. And so I do believe Audrey's statement, that our differences are actually mobilizing parts of who we are. And so even including folks in the anthology who don't identify as lesbian, but may have done archival research to bring lesbian work to bear, like Gloria T. Hall. I think that's a particular mantra for me, is that our differences are not immobilizing, that they are actually productive parts of who we are, and that we can work in harmony with each other. I think that liberation may not be sort of ascertained in our lifetime, but I think my particular work is making works by Black lesbians more legible. So I hope that answers.
Listen, thank you for that one. Somebody said, CM said, there's something to be said to share the intimate moments of a person's life, good or bad. It differentiates between making a legacy film and a true documentary, is what was said in the chat, for sure.
Yeah, I did appreciate that you were able to capture Audre Lorde's not maturation with cancer, but the way that her body shifted as she got closer to her death. I think I was really happy that you showed us like just the physiological changes that one goes through. It's one thing reading it in the cancer journals, but then it's another thing to actually see it on film. So I'm happy you didn't spend too much time on it, but that you did give credence to the way that the disease really did affect her.
Even the relationship between her and the doctor was really symbolic, even though it was a tiny piece. It was very symbolic the way those two came together. And also an interesting dynamic, between Audrey and the doctor as well. What was it? I forget the doctor's name. I wrote it down somewhere, but is he still around?
No, he died of cancer.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha. Wow. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Well, if anybody else, I would definitely say direct your questions. If y'all have any other questions to the Black Lesbian Archives at gmail.com, and I'll definitely kind of pass those through. But I do want to say I appreciate, we kind of wrapping up at this point now, but I do appreciate for everybody for coming through to the panel discussion. It has been amazing to be able to be in this space, and the fact that this is happening right as we're leaving this Pisces new moon energy is incredible. It's amazing. So thank y'all for coming through. I do want to make a couple announcements before we kind of conclude. And if anybody else wants to drop any resources or drop any links or anything like that for future events or future things moving forward, you definitely can. I would definitely advise you to drop it in the chat, but you can drop it or say it out loud as soon as I finish up. So we do have the virtual exhibit is still running until the 28th, March 28th. If you would like to, matter of fact, after this is done, I will be sending everybody a follow-up email. So the link will actually be in there if you haven't got a chance to view the virtual exhibit. You want to make sure, if you can't look at it, if you do have a laptop, definitely I would recommend to look at it on a laptop so you can actually listen to the music and hear the videos and stuff like that. But you can still view the virtual exhibit of the Ashe Project over the phone and see that as well. Also too, we, all videos and links for the exhibit, I do want to announce, will be available after the exhibit, like down the line. So if you did miss it or if somebody did miss it, let them know that, links and stuff like that will be available once everything concludes and close. We have the Grassroots Archivist Workshop coming up on March 28th that I'll be hosting. So you want to make sure you come through for that. You can RSVP at blacklesbianarchives.wix.com/info/upcoming to come through to that. And we also have the mobile Her Story bus campaign that will be kicking off March 28th. In short, it will be a school bus. I feel like Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus in this motherfucker. but it will be a school bus conversion. So we'll be doing a Kickstarter campaign to fundraise for a school bus that will be actually going on tour spring of 2022. This school bus will actually allow us to bring the archives on the road. All right. So we'll be doing everything from film screenings on the bus, story time on the bus, performances on the bus. So we'll be building out like a place where you're able to like record music and do things like that. We'll be teaching about different types of media, different tools that you can use when it's talking about media. And we can also do, we'll be doing a lot of stuff on that bus. The marketplace will be around that bus as well. So more information at blacklesbianarchives.wix.com /info/projects/Her Story Mobile Bus. And like I said, I will be sending y'all all these links. So if you didn't catch what I just said, I will be sending like links and stuff like that where you can look it up. Other than that, did anybody have any resources or anything that they wanted to say before we conclude? Once again, I do appreciate y'all for coming through. This is an incredible time to be alive. You feel me? I feel like we are like the chosen, you know, Aquarius, this new ushering in of Aquarian energy. We are the chosen moving this thing forward. So don't take that lightly. You feel me? But anyway, is anybody have any other questions, anything that they want to add in before we conclude? Thank you so much for creating this space, crew. Thank you, Dagmar and Brianna, for using your gifts and sharing your work with us all. Thank you all so much. Such a beautiful film and discussions.
Well, thank you.
Unfortunately, we joined late, but hey, thank you for the talk and your work, and we will keep an eye out for that email.
Thank you for creating the space and for showing the film. And just one little information, in Berlin, a street is going to be named after Audrey.
Oh, wow. Ooh, okay, street name. Congratulations, Audrey.
And there is already a street named after Maya Yim, the Afro-German author and poet.
Oh, wow. Street name. We're going to have to visit the streets, both of those streets. All right, I think that's about it, y'all. We're going to go
Feel
ahead
free
and
to write to me for more information on Audrey, on
your email again, Dagmar? Dagmar Schultz?
Dagmar@dagmarschultz.com.
All right.
I put it in the chat already.
Okay, cool. Brianna, did you put your information in the chat too? I was trying to do it while it was going. We got the book in there, but direct links to get in contact with you.
Yeah, that's my email.
Oh, and be sure y'all to be sure y'all to subscribe to the website to stay updated. The blacklesbianarchives.wix.com/info. Also too, if Jamie, I don't know if Jamie is still here, but we are kicking off a meetup on April 11th. It's called the GACBW. So it's the Grassroots Archivist Collective for Black Women. That first virtual meetup will be April 4th. No, not April 4th, April 11th at 4 p.m. EST. And then we'll be having a, we'll have more information during the actual meetup in April, but we'll be having a conference as well in October. More information coming out soon, and you can also check that out. And I will be putting that in the info follow-up email that I send y'all, so don't even worry about it. But it's the website is gacbw.wix.com/info. So you can see all the information for that as well. I wanted to put that plug. And shout out to Black Women Radical. Jamie, I see you. You feel me? Brianna, I see you. Everybody, Dagmar, I see you, everybody. Thank you so much. There it is, the link for that below. Brianna's links too, if you want to connect. And yeah, y'all, let's keep this going. Let's keep this energy going and moving for sure. But other than that, did y'all have anything that y'all wanted to leave us with before we go? Are y'all good? Y'all good? Everything copacetic? All right, y'all.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. And I will talk to y'all both soon and everybody soon. And I'm sending my love out to y'all. And like I said, let's keep this shit going, y'all, for sure.
Dagmar, please say hi to Ika.
Oh yeah, say hi to Ika. For sure.
Thank you.
All right, bye everybody.
All right,
Bye.
bye. y'all.